So as a result of my match with Ray Robson, which I alluded to earlier, this happens to everybody, but I don't play a lot of matches, so it doesn't happen to me very often. But when you prepare for a match, like 95% of the stuff that you prepare doesn't happen in the match. And hopefully you retain that knowledge and have it happen in other games, which I'm sure happens a lot with, Magnus and Anand and people who play a lot of world championship matches. Anyway, this is one of my few examples of me preparing for a specific opponent and that preparation not happening, and then I got to play it against another opponent. And this was actually a student of mine who gained the most rating points from beginning to end. And when I started teaching Atulya, he was 6, and he was rated maybe 800, 900, 1,000. And then currently he's higher rated than I am, although he doesn't play much chess anymore. But still keep in touch with his family somewhat. I taught him for many years, and he's had other teachers who were better than me. And at this time, his FIDE rating was 2122, but probably his USCF rating was 2350. Now I think his USCF and FIDE ratings are higher than mine. He's an international master. And this was played at the Chicago Open. And unfortunately for Atulya, he walked into my Robson preparation. And I'm not known to play a lot of prep and novelties and stuff. So if I play Atulya, normally I get a bad position out of the opening because he knows the opening better than I do. Okay, so we played a Sicilian, and this was what I prepared for Robson, the accelerated dragon. And Robson always tries to make it a regular dragon. And this is a main line. Okay, now the difference between the regular dragon and this position is white's played bishop b3 early. So I can keep playing dragon moves and it just transposes to a regular dragon. But in this position, typically the bishop would be on c4 and white would have castled. So because the bishop is on b3, black has an extra option, which you could only get from the accelerated dragon move order, which is this one, which is to trade on d4 and play b5. And the reason I can play b5 is bishop's not on c4, so it's not hanging. And then you attack with the pawns, etc. And this is a big theoretical line, which means that I wouldn't know it, because that's not my specialty. However, in preparing for Ray Robson, I prepared this. It just didn't happen, but prepared a lot. So, okay, he played h4. I played a5. He played h5. I played a4. And this is all my prep. Basically, the whole game is my prep. And at some point, when my prep ended, I had used a minute on my clock, and Atulya had 10 minutes left for the game. I think he was out of prep here. Okay, this is theory he took. This is the line that I prepared. b4, knight e2, f5, exchange sacrifice. So I'm sacrificing the exchange because I get the 2 bishops. I'm threatening bishop b2, and the white king doesn't really have a safe place to play. I'm not saying that black's better. This is just very complicated, and I had prepared it at that time. I don't remember anything now. I can't tell you any of my prep or what I knew, but I knew this and more. Okay, he took my rook. I took back. He took on d6, and I played bishop b5. And this is still my prep. And I have more. So it's unusual for me to have such good, deep preparation. And on the rare occasions when I do, when they walk into my prep, I have really good results. So I guess I would have had a higher peak rating if I had studied chess 12 hours a day my whole life. And then I could have been crazy like Kramnik and accused everybody of cheating. But I didn't do that. But on the occasions when I did prepare, I did good preparation. Okay, now today's engine says white should play h6. And white's better, but he played hg. And this engine says that's already a mistake and black's already equal. I took back. Knight f4. And this is still my preparation. I'm sure I still knew this position. Rook to d8, attacking his queen. Queen takes b4, and then queen b8. And this is funny. If the knight goes to like, if the knight wasn't on the board, if it disappeared, queen g3 would be checkmate. And what's funny is almost every knight move prevents that. Thanks, Finegold. And thanks, Pass Pawn 9999. Okay, so this is still my prep. And in this position, he played the only move, knight e2, or queen e7, I'm sorry. This is the position where he blundered, made the losing move. Knight e2 is the only move, and the engine says it's equal. This engine does. Back when I was doing prep, I don't know what it said, because we didn't have Stockfish 16 in 2011. Who knows what we had? Okay, so he played queen e7. That's the losing move, and I'm already winning now. And I'm sure that wasn't my preparation. So the idea is I can't take his knight because my rook's hanging. And what he'd like to do is if I play something like rook e8, he wants to play queen h4, defending his knight and trying to attack me down the h-file. Okay, so I took on e4, which is correct. Played rook d1, which is okay according to the engine. Rook e8, queen h4. I took on f3 with discovered check. King f2. And in this position, the engine wants me to check on the diagonal. I took on g2, which is also winning, but not as winning. And he played rook e1. I didn't want to trade. The engine says I should trade. But I played rook c8, which is a mistake. And now he can be almost equal if he plays knight d5. But he took the pass pawn. He was in terrible time trouble here. He had less than a minute. Now he's losing again. Queen b6 check. Bishop f6 is the key move. That gives me g7 for my king, and my bishops defend the back rank, so he can't check me. And basically, my king is relatively safe, and his king is not. God damn, bishop c6 is coming. Okay, so he played queen g4. It says every move wins. I played this to play rook h5 check, which obviously, if I can play rook h5 check, he has to resign. So, played knight f4, bishop c6 check, queen c7 pinning his knight. So I want to play rook h5 check again. King h3, rook g5. His king is no good. Played knight e6 to be tricky, but I can just take it. And he checks, and I go here. That's what he got out of knight e6, was he checked me. Now I'm threatening mate, and I'm up material. Played rook d6, which is the best move. Check. And I defended my bishop. He's out of threats now. Check. Queen c5. I don't want to take his rook because he'll play rook d7 check, winning my queen. But after here, well, now I might take his rook. He checked because he's in time trouble. And this was move 40. So I had an hour on my clock, but this was the end of time trouble for him. And he doesn't have any more checks. And I have a queen, rook, and two bishops attacking his king. So it's not going to be good. The engine announces mate for black. Now I'm threatening queen g4 check. And now I'm threatening queen h4 mate. And now he resigned. The engine wants him to just give his rook away to stop mate, although it says I made him anyway. But okay, I'm gonna checkmate him any second now. So that was a fun game because at the point where he left my prep when he played queen e7 on move 22, that's the losing move, and he had no time on his clock, and I had all my time. So even though I sort of threw away the win, technically, with the time on his clock, it was basically hopeless. So that was, I mean, this position before here, this is still my prep against Robson. Preparing is easy. Remembering your prep is not easy. But this was played like 10 days after my Robson match. So I still had the prep like in my head. So that was good because I consider Atulya Shetty to be a colleague, not a 2100 player that I'm going to beat every game. He's a very strong player, and maybe some of you even heard of him. The last time we played, he beat me. I've been beating him his whole life because he was always a little kid. And then eventually we got a similar rating, and he beat me the last time we played. Truth hurts. That's correct, C.L. Smith, and I did talk about that. Okay, then this was the final position, and yeah, his king's not very good. That kind of game with open kings and calculation and sacrifices, I could do that in my 30s and early 40s. And now I can't do anything. And truth hurts. So somebody pointed out in the stream earlier that Igor Rouses passed away sometime in the last 3 days. And he's infamous for being caught cheating in the bathroom with a phone. And as a consequence, he retired from chess, and FIDE stripped him of his GM title. Now, of course, he became a GM before he was cheating, but when he was between the ages of 45 and 55, his rating started shooting up, and he just got much stronger because he was cheating. But I mean, he was a grandmaster. They took his grandmaster title away as punishment. I don't think he wasn't grandmaster strength. But it didn't matter because he retired from play after he was caught. And obviously, people thought for about a year that he was cheating because he was in his 50s and he was beating everybody much better than he had in his 30s. So that's pretty suspicious. And I didn't know that he had so many names, that Igor Rouses wasn't even his original name, and that he had been married more than once, and he took masculine versions of his wife's last names. So he changed his name to both of his wife's last name, but slightly different because he masculinized it. And he did with his next wife also. So he actually had 3 different names, but I only knew him as Igor Rouses when he was playing chess. And I played in tournaments in Europe with him, way before he was infamous. But he was 62, I believe, and he died in the last 3 days. Truth hurts.